Listen, I have been teaching at the Korvax Imperial Combat Institute for 73 cycles now, and I thought I had seen everything. Thought I knew every species, every fighting style, every cheap trick a cadet might pull to avoid getting their appendages handed to them in the sparring ring. I was wrong. Dead wrong. And it all started the day they brought in the human. Her name was Riley Kade. 5'4". Maybe 120 pounds if you included her boots. Brown hair pulled back in what humans call a ponytail. Eyes the color of Earth's oceans, or so I am told. She did not look like much. Actually, she looked like prey. The Korvax intake officer, a particularly grumpy male named Voth, dropped her file on my desk with all the enthusiasm of someone disposing of biological waste. Your problem now, Professor Draxus, he grumbled. Another charity case from the Terran integration program. I flipped through the file. Academic scores? Mediocre. Physical assessments? Below average for most species we trained. Combat experience? None. Zero. Not even recreational violence. Why is she here? I asked. Vogt shrugged, his shoulder plates clattering. Some diplomatic nonsense. Humans want representation in the Imperial military programs. We get funding. Everyone pretends to care about interspecies cooperation. You know how it works. I did know, and I did not like it. The Korvax Imperial Combat Institute was not some feel-good integration camp. We trained warriors, soldiers who would face actual combat in the outer territories where the Rakan swarm still picked off colony ships like insects. We trained Korvax, obviously, but also Thul, with their forearms and reinforced bone structure. Vexian scouts, quick as lightning and twice as mean, even the occasional Draconer, those 8-foot-tall monsters who could bench press a transport shuttle. And now, a human girl who probably could not open a ration pack without instructions. Great. Riley showed up to orientation 20 minutes late. Not a great start. She slipped into the back of the auditorium while I was explaining the Academy's proud history of producing elite soldiers. 80% graduation rate. 30% of those went on to active combat duty. 5% became legends. The rest, I told the assembled cadets, wash out, go home or die during training exercises that they were too stupid or too slow to survive. I let that hang in the air. Good motivation technique. Scare them early. Riley sat alone. That was the first thing I noticed. In an auditorium of 200 cadets. Somehow there was a perfect circle of empty seats around her. The other cadets, mostly Korvax and Thul, kept glancing at her and whispering. Not subtle whispers either. The kind meant to be heard. A Thul named Crag, built like a boulder with anger issues, turned fully around in his seat. Hey Pinkskin, you lost? The petting zoo is 3 sectors over. Laughter rippled through nearby cadets. Riley said nothing, just pulled out a data pad and started reading. I am talking to you, human, Crag said louder now. She looked up. I heard you. I am just choosing not to engage with someone whose intellect peaks at name-calling. Oh no, I knew that tone. That was the tone of someone who had no idea how much danger they were in. Crag's face, already a mottled purple, darkened to almost black. What did you just say? I believe the human saying is, if you did not understand it the first time, explaining it probably will not help. Should I use smaller words? The auditorium went silent. You could have heard a pin drop on cushioned flooring. Crag stood up. All 7 feet and 300 pounds of him. You just made a very big mistake, human. I should have intervened. Should have shut it down right there. But honestly, I was curious. This tiny human had just verbally slapped a Thul in front of 200 witnesses. Either she was incredibly brave or incredibly stupid, and I wanted to know which. Sit down, Cadet Crag, I called out. You will have plenty of time to settle differences in the sparring ring. That is what it is for. Crag sat, but his eyes never left Riley, and I noticed others watching her too. Calculating, measuring, predators identifying wounded prey. The next few days were brutal for Riley Kade. I watched it all unfold with the detached interest of a scientist observing an experiment. The other cadets made her life systematically miserable. Someone programmed her door panel to malfunction, locking her out of her quarters for 6 hours. Her meal trays in the cafeteria mysteriously ended up on the floor. Twice, her training gear went missing before combat drills, forcing her to run obstacle courses in standard uniform while others wore proper equipment. Standard bullying tactics. I had seen it before with weaker cadets. Usually they complained to instructors or dropped out within a week. Riley did neither. She fixed her own door panel, ate her meals standing in the corner, away from tables, completed obstacle courses in whatever she was wearing without comment or complaint. Just kept her head down and worked. It was almost admirable. Almost, but I knew how this story ended. Humans were soft. They came from a world with no real predators, no environmental pressures worth mentioning. Comfortable. Safe. They had never needed to become dangerous because they had never needed to survive anything truly threatening. The breaking point came during week 2 in Combat Fundamentals class. Combat Fundamentals was taught by instructor Zarn, a former Korvax shock trooper who had lost his left eye and most of his patients during the frontier wars. He ran his class like a military operation. No nonsense. No mercy. No excuse. Pair up, Zarn barked. Standard grappling drills. Submission holds only. First to tap out loses. The cadets scrambled to find partners. Naturally, no one approached Riley. She stood alone while everyone else paired off, looking small and out of place in her training uniform. Zarn noticed. Of course he noticed. He was many things, but unobservant was not one of them. Cadet K, he said. No partner? No, sir. Zarn's remaining eye gleamed with something that might have been amusement. Or malice. Hard to tell with him. Cadet Crag. You seem to have excess energy lately. Partner with Cadet K. Oh, this was going to be bad. Crag grinned, showing way too many teeth. Yes, sir. Happy to help the human learn. They moved to the sparring circle. Regulation size, cushioned floor, sensor boundary that would alert instructors if things went too far. In theory, I positioned myself with a better view. So did several other instructors. Word had spread fast that the human was about to get demolished. Standard rules, Zarn announced. Grappling only. No strikes. First to submit or boundary violation loses. Begin. Crag did not waste time. He lunged forward, using his size and forearms to his advantage, clearly planning to pin Riley immediately and make her tap out in front of everyone. Smart strategy. Overwhelming force. Quick victory. Maximum humiliation for the human, except Riley moved, not away. She dropped low, under Crag's outstretched arms, and her leg whipped out in a sweep that caught his forward ankle at the exact moment his weight shifted. Basic physics plus perfect timing equals one very surprised Thul suddenly airborne. Crag hit the mat hard. The breath exploded out of him with a sound like a deflating transport balloon. Before he could recover, Riley was on him. Not grappling the way we taught. Something else. Something fluid and precise. Her arms snaked around his thick neck. Knee pressed into his spine, leveraging his own body weight against him. Tap, she said quietly. Crag snarled and tried to buck her off. Could not. Tried to grab her with his upper arms. She had positioned herself perfectly in his blind spot where his shoulder structure could not reach. Tap, she repeated, tightening her hold. Crag's face went from purple to dark blue, the color of oxygen deprivation. His lower right hand slapped the mat 3 times. Riley released immediately and stepped back. Total elapsed time. 3 seconds. Maybe. The training hall was silent. 200 cadets and 6 instructors just staring. Crag rolled to his side, gasping, one hand rubbing his neck. He looked up at Riley with an expression I had never seen on a Thul before. Lucky shot, someone muttered. I think it was Vex of Vexine in the back row. Zarn's eye narrowed. Cadet Jex, you are up next. Against the human. Jex was Korvax. Lighter than Crag but faster. Trained in our traditional fighting style since childhood. Confident. Cocky. Even. He stepped into the circle. Begin. Jex tried a different approach. Stayed mobile, circling, looking for an opening. Smart. Do not rush in like Crag. Be patient. Wait for the human to make a mistake. Riley stood center circle, perfectly balanced, watching Jex move. Wait. Jex feinted left, then dove right, going for a leg takedown. Riley's knee came up and caught him in the shoulder, redirecting his momentum. As he stumbled past, her elbow dropped precisely on the nerve cluster at the base of his neck. Jex went down like someone had cut his power. She did not even bother to follow up with a submission hold. Just stood back while Jex tried to remember how to make his limbs work. 2 seconds. That time, medical. Check Cadet Jex, Zarn said calmly. Then to the class. Anyone else want to test the human? No one moved. No? Zarn looked almost disappointed. Cadet Kade front and center. Riley walked to stand before him. Where did you learn to fight like that? He asked. Earth, sir. Mixed martial arts, mostly. Some judo, some Muay Thai, some Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I do not know those terms. Different fighting systems from my planet, sir. Combined techniques. Zarn studied her for a long moment. Your species has multiple fighting systems? Yes, sir. Hundreds, actually. Developed over thousands of years. Thousands of years, Sarn repeated slowly. Of creating ways to hurt each other. Yes, sir. I was told humans come from a peaceful world. Riley's smile was small and did not reach her eyes. Peaceful now, sir. We worked very hard to get there. Learned a lot along the way. I found myself reassessing everything I thought I knew about humans. About Earth. About what survival pressure actually meant. After class I pulled Riley's file again. Read it more carefully this time. Her planet's history was extensive. Wars. Thousands of them. Conflicts spanning continents and centuries. Weapons development that went from sharpened rocks to artificial suns designed to level cities, and they did that to each other. Their own species. For resources, territory, ideology, sometimes just because they could. Humans had not become dangerous because they fought predators or survived hostile environments. They became dangerous because they fought themselves, and they got terrifyingly good at it. The bullying stopped. After that day. Completely. Cadets gave Riley space, but it was different now. Not exclusion. Respect. Crag actually approached her in the cafeteria a week later. That move you used, he said awkwardly. The leg sweep into the chokehold. Could you? Would you teach me? Riley looked up from her meal, studied him. Why? Because it was effective. And I do not like losing. She considered this. Okay. Training Hall 7. After dinner. Bring anyone else who wants to learn. 15 cadets showed up that night. By the end of the week it was 40. I watched from the observation deck as Riley taught them human fighting techniques, blending them with what we had already taught. The cadets were learning faster, getting better, combining styles. This is highly irregular, Voth commented, appearing beside me. It is effective, I countered. She is changing the curriculum. She is improving it, Voth grunted. The human integration program was supposed to be symbolic, a token gesture. Seems like the token is outperforming everyone else. And she was. Riley's academic scores improved as she settled in. Her physical assessments went from below average to top 10th percentile. Her combat rankings climbed steadily, but more than that, she was making the other cadets better. Teaching them. Challenging them. Pushing them past what they thought they could do. By midterm evaluations, Riley Kade ranked 7th in a class of 200. The academy commandant, a decorated Korvax general named Threx, took notice. Explain to me, he said during instructor review, how a human with no prior combat training is dominating tactical simulations. I pulled up Riley's latest results. She thinks differently, sir. Where our cadets see force versus force, she sees angles, leverage points, psychological pressure. She fought a 6-way battle simulation last week and won by convincing 3 factions to eliminate each other while she secured the objective uncontested. That was not the intended lesson. No, sir. But it was the better strategy. Threx studied the data, his expression unreadable. Her species really fought each other for thousands of years. Yes, sir, continuously. And they survived it. United, eventually. Apparently so. Then perhaps, Threx said slowly, we have been integrating the wrong species into our programs. Perhaps we should have been asking the humans to integrate us into theirs. I had no response to that. That night I found Riley in the library studying advanced tactical theory. Material we usually did not cover until 3rd year. Cadet Kade. She stood, snapping to attention. Professor Draxus. At ease. Question for you if I may. Of course, sir. That first day in orientation when Cadet Crag threatened you, you had to know how that could have ended. Why antagonize him? Riley smiled, and this time it did reach her eyes. Because bullies pick on people they think are weak. I needed him to understand, immediately, that I was not. Everything that came after, the challenge, the fight, proving myself, that was inevitable anyway. Better to control when and how it happened. You planned it. I recognize the pattern, sir. Humans have a lot of experience with bullying, both receiving it and stopping it, by fighting back. When necessary, yes. I shook my head, amazed. Your people really are something else. We are survivors, Professor. Earth taught us that nothing comes easy. Nothing lasts forever. And if you want peace, you had better be able to fight for it. Every human knows that. It is in our bones. She was right. I realized. Humans were not soft. They were just done fighting. For now. The real test came during finals week. And let me tell you, nobody was prepared for what Riley Kade was about to do. Not the instructors. Not the cadets. And definitely not the Imperial observers who had flown in from the homeworld to evaluate our program. Finals at the Korvax Imperial Combat Institute were not your standard academic examinations. No written tests, no oral presentations, no comfortable classroom nonsense. Finals meant the gauntlet, a 3-day simulation designed to break even the strongest cadets, 48 hours of continuous combat scenarios, resource management, tactical decision-making, and physical endurance challenges that would make a Draconier cry for their mother. The failure rate? Roughly 30%. Every year, some cadets washed out from exhaustion, others from injuries sustained during the scenarios. A few just quit when they realized they could not handle the pressure. All perfectly acceptable outcomes according to Academy standards. If you could not survive finals, you had no business in actual combat. I stood in the control room overlooking the simulation bay watching technicians run final diagnostics on the environmental systems. Beside me, Instructor Zarn reviewed cadet assignments with his usual grim efficiency. Teams of 5, he said, scrolling through his datapad. Randomized selection to prevent pre-established group dynamics from creating advantages. Who did Riley draw? I asked. Probably too quickly. Zarn's eye flicked toward me. Concerned about your human, Professor. Curious. There is a difference. He pulled up the roster. Cadet Kade is assigned to Team 7. Krag Vex, a Vexian named Sola, and a Korvax cadet called I winced. Prin was dead weight, barely passing most courses. Sola was competent but overly aggressive. Vex was brilliant tactically but physically weak. Krag had improved significantly since Riley started training him, but he still defaulted to brute force when stressed. Not an ideal composition. That team will struggle. I said. They are all struggling, Draxes. That is the point. Zarn closed his datapad. Besides, randomization is randomization. No favoritism. No exception. He was right, of course. But I still did not like it. The gauntlet began at dawn. 200 cadets, organized into 40 teams, entered the massive simulation bay. The space was enormous, roughly 5 square miles of programmable environment. Holographic projectors, physical obstacles, automated opponents, environmental hazards, anything and everything we could throw at them. The scenario was simple on paper. Teams started at random locations throughout the bay. Their objective was to secure 3 strategic points, hold them for minimum 2 hours each, then extract to the designated evacuation zone, all while other teams competed for the same objectives. Automated defense systems attacked everyone equally and environmental conditions deteriorated progressively. And limited ammunition, rations, and medical supplies. Because why make things easy? All teams. This is Command. Commandant Threx's voice boomed through the speakers. Your trial begins now. Survive, adapt, overcome, or fail and go home. Clock starts in 3, 2, 1. Mark. The simulation roared to life. I pulled up Team 7's feed on my monitor. They had spawned in Sector 4, an industrial zone filled with fabrication equipment and tight corridors. Not terrible positioning, but not great either. Riley took charge immediately. Weapons check, she said crisply. Call out what you have. Pulse rifle, 40 rounds, Krag reported. Sniper configuration, 20 rounds, Sola added. Standard rifle, 50 rounds, Vex said. Shotgun type thing, maybe 12 shells. Prin fumbled with his weapon. Riley nodded. I have a carbine and 30 rounds. Krag, you are point. Vex, tactical. Sola, overwatch. Prin, stay center, and watch R6. I will coordinate. Questions. Why are you in charge? Sola demanded. Because I said so first and nobody objected fast enough. You want to argue leadership while other teams are already moving? Be my guest. We can debate after we survive. Sola's mandibles clicked in annoyance, but she said nothing. Good. Moving out. Krag. North corridor, slow advance. They moved like a functional unit, which was more than most teams managed in the first hour. I watched other feeds. Team 3 had already split up, arguing over direction. Team 12 had walked straight into an automated turret and lost 2 members. Team 20 was hiding in a storage closet. Standard chaos. Team 7 reached the first strategic point, a communications hub in Sector 6, ahead of most other teams. The location was defended by automated sentries, standard security protocols. Sola, sightlines? Riley asked. 3 sentries visible. Probably 2 more hidden. Overlapping fields of fire covering the main entrance. Vex. Suggestions? The Korvax cadets studied the layout through their tactical visor. Service entrance on the east side. Less defended, but it is a choke point. They will expect that approach too. Riley smiled. So we give them what they expect. Pren Crag, you two make noise at the service entrance. Draw their attention. Do not actually go in. Just make them think you are about to. Vex. Sola. With me. We go through the main entrance while they are repositioned. That is insane, Prin said. The main entrance is a kill zone. It will be a kill zone until it is not. Trust me. Go. I leaned forward, watching closely. This was either brilliant or catastrophic. Crag and Prin moved to the service entrance, firing shots, making themselves obvious targets. Exactly as predicted, the automated sentries rotated to